Psychology affects literally everything that you do, and your financial decisions are no different. Now, this comes into play because financial health is totally interlinked with our mental health. Many of us become all too familiar with financial stress from one way or another. And while this video isn't financial advice or therapy, I hope to shed some light on the psychology behind why we get so messed up around money, and maybe how we'd be better served in changing those. The first thing to understand here is that our financial actions are dictated by two things: our thoughts and belief systems and our emotions. Now, a lot of times these things can be intertwined if we have emotional thinking, which many of us may experience when we make decisions based on anxiety, or we're feeling overconfident, or we're just extra carefree and not really thinking. And for many of us, this emotional thinking can even be our baseline if we're not used to having to logically parse through things, and maybe we've never really been taught about money. So the way that we view money comes from a few places. Most likely it's our family and it's the community around us. So keeping in mind how other people around us have approached money or view money may shed some insight onto why we're acting the way we are with our finances. And this leads us back to the thought patterns that are messing us up. These are called cognitive distortions. Cognitive, our thinking; distortions, it's like distorted, it's a mirage, it's not real. These are false patterns of thinking that act as stumbling blocks that mess up the way that we approach decision making. Now, there's a few cognitive distortions that are especially prevalent with money-making decisions. The first one is something called catastrophizing. This is where we think the worst-case scenario is always going to happen. Let's say you start investing, you put a little money in the stock market, and that money goes down just a little bit. And now you're saying, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose all my money. Or you're an extra anxious person and you have a bad day at work. And your boss maybe says something to you. And now you assume, oh my gosh, I'm going to get fired. Let me start selling everything I own. Let me make sure I have enough money, and freaking out in that kind of way. Catastrophizing often leads to underacting or overacting based on how our anxiety is acting in this kind of situation. Either we're avoiding a situation, we're underacting because we're so scared and we just think it's going to turn out the worst case scenario, or we start overacting because, oh my gosh, all of a sudden something gets triggered and now we need to make it right. We need to prepare ourselves and to keep ourselves safe. The next cognitive distortion that totally affects the way that we view and make decisions about money is something called the sunken cost fallacy. This comes up a ton in gambling, and this can even come up when investing into something like the stock market, where you put money in and you say, okay, you know what? The money's gone down a little bit. And logically, I know I should take it out here, but I'm so bought in. I already put so much emotional, mental, etc. investment here that I just have to ride it out, and it ends up going lower and lower, and you lose more. The sunken cost fallacy also comes up with things like staying in a dead-end job, staying in situations that don't serve you in life because you feel I've put in so much effort that I just have to see this out. I'm already this deep into a decision, so I feel this weird sense of obligation that I have to stay with it. Now, the third cognitive distortion that often messes people up with money-making decisions and how people think and approach money is something called negative filtering. Negative filtering is only seeing the negative aspects of a situation. Again, let's take investing for an example. Let's say you buy 5 different stocks, you buy 5 investments, and 4 of them go way up and 1 of them goes down. Now, you may start to think to yourself with negative filtering, oh my gosh, this one went down. I'm never going to be able to invest. I'm never going to save money. I might as well just never invest at all. Or we go to different job interviews and a few of them go great, but one of them goes really poorly. And that really affects us. And we start getting so nervous that we're never going to get a job. We're never going to be secure. Negative filtering is the extreme focus on different mistakes that we make. This might look like, okay, you know what? I was good at budgeting throughout the week. I was responsible with my money, but one day I bought an extra coffee. Now, with negative filtering, you might ignore the other 6 days of the week that you were actually pretty good. And you might say, you know what? Doesn't matter. I'm not going to budget anyways. I can't even save my money. So these are some of the primary cognitive distortions that come up and really affect the way that we think about and feel and approach money decisions. But what do we actually do about this? Practical tools that many people find helpful is first getting very clear on what your financial goals are, what your financial values are, and why you believe them. This can become really important when we start to get ourselves into these anxious spirals that we just say, you know what, I need to buy this, or I need to spend this, or I need to save all my money, I need to do something rashly. Coming back and really identifying, what are my values here? What would acting in accordance with my financial values look like? And the next tool is something called partializing. Partializing is when we take the big picture and we take a piece of it. We take the part of it. So let's say we want to start saving money, but you say, you know what, for that thing I want to save for, I want to start saving for retirement. I want to put in $10,000, but I don't have $10,000 to put in right now. So what do? Either, okay, maybe negative filtering, catastrophizing, etc. We give up, we assume worst case scenario, or partializing says, you know what? I don't have $10,000. I don't even have $1,000. Maybe I have $10 that I can put in. And I can start off small and slowly build up over time. Partializing is great because it avoids this anxiety loop. A lot of times our anxiety is basically the alarm system in the mind. It's something that tells us that something is unsafe, that we're not okay for whatever reason. And when we reach a certain threshold, that's when it sets off this alarm trigger. Partializing is great because we can sort of fly under the radar. We can do things that feel much more manageable and build up over time. So let's say doing something with $100 makes us really tense and really we feel this tenseness, anxiety, this stress, but maybe $10 doesn't trigger that threshold. Okay, great. So maybe that's our starting point. And the last tool to being cool, calm, and collected about money is learning to sit with the discomfort. This is something that every therapist loves to say and every client hates to hear because really this is the truth of overcoming emotions, emotional mastery here, is learning to sit with the uncomfortable feeling that you're currently experiencing and be curious about it. Rather than immediately acting on it, which reinforces it, we feel this intensity, we feel this visceral feeling, and we say, you know what? I don't have to act on this. A lot of times we're faced with, I just want to placate this emotion. I feel a lot of anxiety. I feel a lot of stress. I feel a lot of dread, whatever it is. And I want to be able to navigate around it. The issue with this is it ends up reinforcing the strength of that emotion. If I keep listening to my anxiety, then I'm telling my anxiety that it's doing the right job, that it's doing a good job. If I learn to, you know what, I'm going to put a pause. I'm going to increase the distance between stimulus and response, then I'm able to start to navigate these emotions in a healthier way. Because taking a second to sit with it allows you to decide how you want to navigate the situation rather than the emotion deciding for you. Thank you for joining this brief crash course on the psychology of money. I hope you found something valuable here. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are. Like the video, subscribe, and remember to hit life on all cylinders.